And we're live. Welcome to TFL Live. My name's Richard. You know that guy. That guy over there. That's Brian.
I don't know which way is which anymore because everything looks backwards to me. So is it this way? Oh, it is this way.
It is that way. Yeah, it's that way. I gotta go that way for you. That
Yeah,
way.
no kidding. And everything is mirrored on my side today because I had a random last minute camera change set up.
Oh, there you go.
If you can't tell already.
And
From
we're
the various
wearing the
angles.
same shirt tonight, I see.
I
So,
can't move like that.
so tonight's broadcast is brought to you by us, The First Layer.
Yes.
If you want to get one of these, go to shopthefirstlayer.com. All of our websites are working again, thanks to Brian and a little bit of backdoor ingenuity that I had to figure out, and our hosting and everything's working again. I'm getting emails again. Now, that being said,
Hurrah.
I don't have emails for tonight, so we're going to wing it. Let's say hello
We're
to
doing
some
your
people.
questions live.
Yeah, we're going to take your questions live. Let's say hello to Joseph Jolly, all the way from Orlando, Florida. We got Rex Waldy, Trevor Rickard, 3D printing and painting, our good friend Jerry Knapp down in Las Vegas. We got Robert Avery, David Sell, and Mike Brown. Well, welcome to the show, guys. We're going to take your questions live tonight. We're just kind of winging it tonight because we weren't here last Saturday. Or Saturday before, I can't remember.
Yes, I wasn't unavailable last Saturday, and you were unfortunately under the weather, so we had
Yes.
to cancel that. And then that cascaded into a delay of the episode this week several times, which I
Yes.
think we got a handle on now. But it's been a weird weather week here too. We actually
it's
just
been
had two
nuts.
hailstorms and lightning. Jess's parents got struck by lightning last weekend, so that
Oh, I
was
didn't
something.
know that.
Yeah, or rather, they got struck by lightning by proxy. Is that how you'd say it? Discharge. The ground got struck about two houses down while their band was playing, and everyone threw their instruments, and people have burns and everything, but everybody's
Ouch.
okay. So, welcome to summer,
Gary
folks.
T's in the house, high tech redneck, and there's our good friend Richard Taylor from here in Calgary. Welcome, gentlemen. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, we had to delay our launch yet again. Let's start there. Our launch has been delayed for weather reasons, and now we found out that we can't launch where we want to launch because the county or the RM, rural municipality, will not allow us to do it. This morning we got good news from heaven above, I guess, from our friends out at the Airdrie Science and Space Club. They do small and mid-sized rocket launches. They usually do them out of Airdrie, but they're not doing another launch until August, and we'd like to get our launch out of the way before then. So we are going to probably do it sometime here in the next couple of weeks. Now, some people I got to say thank you to this week. First and foremost, we want to say thank you to Dave and all of his staff over at Solar Botics here in Calgary. If you are a internet user and you need anything from electronics to 3D printer supplies to 3D printers, they are now selling the Ender 3 Pro and the Ender 5 Pro, I believe. And they've got all kinds of electronics. So if you're into doing Arduino stuff like, we try to do here from time to time through 3D printing, they are definitely the place to go. And check them out today at solarbotics.com. If you're in town, you can also get, I believe you can get pickup at 2 o'clock or beyond if you're buying from Solar Botics. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their cutoff time is, but they're open till I think 5:30 on Monday to Friday, and I want to say around 4 o'clock on Saturdays. So the Saturday is a big benefit. And if you didn't know, they purchased the Calgary branch of Active Electronics. So if you were an
Right.
Active Electronics shopper, now you've got all of the electronic parts there, plus all the hobbyist stuff that Solar Botics has frankly been kind of my electronic supplier at a local level for almost, I want to say 15 years. So they're a great team of guys. Dave and I actually laser etched a Raspberry Pi case the first week that the first Raspberry Pi came out. I was actually the first person in Calgary to have one. So I brought it in and we played with his laser engravers. So
There you
great
go.
group of guys,
So we are going to be doing more with Solarbotics throughout the year. We're just trying to come up with something that we can bring together, the first layer and Solarbotics on a project that we can do together, and you guys will be the recipients of that. We got Pete Sandy, Robert Avery, or did I say Robert Avery earlier? I might have. There's KKP3D. That's our good friend Tim, Jim, and Guy the Jedi, and Mike Brown. Welcome, guys. We're going to get into Pete's question right now. He says, "Hi, guys. I have a CR-10S with a Creality 2.0 board and SSR for silicone heated bed. That all of a sudden keeps blowing the 5x20 10 amp fuse. Any ideas?" That sounds like you got a short there somewhere. Your SSR is not hooked up properly, or you've got a faulty SSR.
Yeah, I haven't played much with SSRs myself because I've mostly been dealing with low voltage where I could get away with a MOSFET instead of an SSR. But yes, if you are suddenly blowing fuses and you are continually blowing fuses, the fuse is protecting you. So something's not right. If you have a multimeter, I would recommend what we call ringing out your wires. So disconnect everything and go point to point and make sure you have no dead shorts basically across that. The silicon beds do draw a lot of power, but I don't think you should be
They
blowing
don't
10
draw
amps.
that much. They don't draw that
No,
much.
because if correct me if I'm wrong, but the SSR ones are 120 volt, are they not? So
They are.
10 amps blowing that is equivalent to almost blowing your entire breaker. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna say you got a short there. Check your wires, make sure you got no burn marks because that's usually where it is.
All right. So there is Evening from Edmonton. Hello, Pierre. Dominic Versetto, can you think of anything that would cause a smooth linear slope in the y direction of 5 degrees, such that a model that should be square looks like a parallelogram?
That sounds like you've got a skew on your bed,
Yeah, it sounds like your bed is skewed. That's for sure. He's
or
using an Ender
or there's another
5. There's his problem right
Hmm.
there. It's the Ender 5. Make sure that when you are setting up the bed level on that Ender 5, that your bed is not sloped, because that will cause a problem for sure.
Yeah, the shift in particular on an Ender 5, that's really interesting as your X and Y gantries move, but your bed does not. So I would look at the alignment of your X and Y gantries at the top of your printer and make sure that they're perfectly square or at least 90 degrees to the frame.
Yeah.
Because that's the only other thing that would cause a parallelogram effect, if you will. There is skew compensation you can enable in Marlin, but that's really a band-aid on the actual issue.
Yeah, I would double check and make sure that your bed's not skewed. Make sure your entire frame is nice and square as well. That's definitely going to help.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Pete Sandy, thanks for the advice. You're welcome. We do have our super chat turned on tonight, so if you guys are so inclined and you'd like to help us out here, we would certainly appreciate it. Go ahead and check out our t-shirts. These 3 shirts are over at shopthefirstlayer.com, and we're going to be putting more stuff up there as we go forward. Our rocket plans for the rocket that I've built is going to be going up there, like the full plans, complete with the STLs. Right now, the STLs are being hosted up on Thingiverse, but you will have to scale them up for the size of tube. But other than that, I will correct all those files, and we'll have a complete list of everything that went into making our Jericho Iron Man missile that I felt was either going to blow up on the launch pad, or it's going to do a spectacular flight. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with that. Hey, Randy D. Serrano. Hello. Robert Avery, have a CR-10 Pro. Is it worth switching to Marlin 2.0? What board? No.
My opinion right now, is stick with Marlin 1 if your
Yeah.
printer is, especially if yours is an 8-bit board. Only go to 2 if you are getting a 32-bit board and you're doing upgrades that Marlin 1.0 is not compatible with it.
Yeah.
Marlin 2.0, it is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm using it on all my machines, but when it comes to the stuff with junction deviation and a lot of those features, there are quite a bit of issues still open on the Git that they are trying to resolve at this time. So I don't want to introduce new problems if you're not really having any right now. So if you have a reason to swap out that board, then go for it. But if you're just kind of looking for a reason to go to 32-bit, I'm still a little hesitant on that. How about you, Richard?
I'm very much of the same mind. Here's what I've always told people: when you've got a new printer, use the printer the way that it is. Use it the way it was meant to be used before you decide to go and start running into upgrading this and upgrading that, and let's get new firmware, and you can run into an entire new set of problems. And that thing that you think might be a quick fix could set you back, and you would be without a printer for days,
8
if
months.
not 8 months, in some cases. So my personal view on that is don't upgrade yet. Play with it. Get to know the limitations of the printer first, and then start with the obvious things like the hot end, the extruder, if that's something that you want to upgrade. Don't worry about the firmware and the board just yet. They're gonna do you fine even if you upgrade, the hot end and the extruder first. They're gonna do you just fine. What else we got going on here?
Darkness Gaming is wondering when we're going to get sweaters in the merch store. I'm going to say October when you actually
Probably,
need them.
yeah, probably October. First, we have to get some sales of our shirts. First,
Yes.
let's get some sales of these first, because there hasn't been any sales since we launched the site. There's been a lot of people trying to hack the site, but there hasn't been any sales. Now that being said, yeah, that being said, the any money that we get in from the shirts goes right back into the production of this show. Also goes into the production of our weekly show, which comes out on Wednesdays, as you guys know. So what I would say to you is, if you want to get one of these, the smallest we have is, I believe, small, and that should fit.
Child sizes in there.
There's no child sizes in there, but we do have small shirts, and I think they'll fit Loch Ness just fine. He's still growing.
Yeah, you'll be a man size soon.
James Lane. James Lane's got a question here. He says, I've changed the main board on both my printers, but not until more than a year after I bought the printers. That's actually really good. Don't change anything really until you've gotten to know the product. You're not going to go out and buy a brand new drill and then automatically change the chuck and then change the battery and, all that stuff. You're going to use the drill as it is. And if you need a better drill, you go out and buy a better drill. In our case, when we upgrade something, we do it for two reasons. One, to educate you guys and show you the pitfalls that we fell into. But we don't just go ahead and upgrade machines. I've got machines up in the printer room, which you guys are going to get to see fairly soon. We're going to give you guys a printer room tour here pretty soon. That nothing's been done to them. Absolutely nothing. They're just still stock. And they work great. And I've got no reason to go to anything else. So I don't believe that upgrading is always the best path, especially with brand new printer or even a printer that you've had for 6 months. I still don't think that it's worth upgrading right away. Brian?
Yeah, I do like to modify my printers, but it's a learning experience for me, right?
Yeah.
You should have, if you're ever getting into the experimental range, you should have a production machine that works and that you're not going to modify, and then tinker with your other machines, because there's nothing worse than, when I started out, I bought a Monoprice Mini, I started modifying it, and then when it's all torn down, you realize you need to print like 3 parts. So
There
what are
you
you
go.
going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it can be an expensive kind of burial. I mean, I've finally finished the recent set of mods on my 10S5, which the latest one was a custom water jet cut bed to replace the steel sheet to increase its strength. And that set me back $120 through a friend raid, if you will. So you can imagine having that done is more expensive. And that's because I modified this machine so much, I needed that additional strength all of a sudden now. So it can really get you down a rabbit hole. The safest modifications that we've talked about before is items like throwing a micro Swiss hot end on your printer. Even if that doesn't work out for you, it's really easy to roll back.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the metal extruder assembly, because the plastic ones do wear. Though I've seen on the new Creality ones, they put almost like rivets inside the holes.
A little brass grommet is on the inlet hole now.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's actually finally. So we might slow down on recommending replacing that thing right away, because that's what used to happen. The arm can still crack, but it does tend to wear through a lot more with the old design.
Yeah, it is a lot to do with the old design, because PLA, surprisingly enough, and I found this kind of out the hard way, is that PLA is very abrasive. And as it's running through there, and meters and meters and meters of it are running through the extruder on that inlet, it just wears a little, it grinds itself a little path, and then you start getting under extrusion because it gets caught in that path. We have a question here from Moki Hunt. Hi guys, think my issue might be Cura 4.6.1, as my printer prints most things just fine. I'm trying to print some files from Thingiverse, or Thingamabob. The printer acknowledged file selection, but either sits there like a fart in a telephone box, or
good analogy.
Yeah, or just pops up a message on the LCD saying, "In the pause, Tiny Machines FW."
Tiny Machines firmware.
Yeah, that sounds like Tiny Machines firmware to me.
You're trying to print files from Thingiverse, and the printer acknowledged file selection. And I assume you're generating G code, correct? You're not trying to print the STL, because I don't even know. I've never even seen if a printer will show an STL file or if it filters out for G code files. If it just sits there and says something about pausing, I've seen that a lot. Well, number one, make sure your SD card has been formatted and is nice and clean.
Yep.
But I have seen that happen once in a while, where it's got, say, for instance, a G29 or some incompatible G code in the start script. Did it work fine in a previous version of Cura, and is it only 4.6.1 causing your issue? Let us know in the chat, and we'll dig into it further.
I would almost think that because he's using Tiny Machines firmware, he might want to roll that back and use the firmware supplied by the manufacturer. I've found that some of these off-brand firmware people, that are places that do firmware like Printed Solid and Tiny Machines, and all these guys that are redoing the code, sometimes they just don't get it quite right. And there might be just one little line that screws everything up. And if you use the firmware that is supplied by the manufacturer, and that's something I've gone back to doing, is using, not going crazy and getting, everybody else's different firmware to test. I just go back to the manufacturer, use their firmware, and I find that 99% of my problems magically disappear. So I think that might be something to think about.
Absolutely. Yeah, eliminate the factors if you can, but you got to look back at when it failed, right? And what changed in that circumstance. And so it sounds like, you've got two items here. You've got Tiny Machines firmware, and you've got Cura 4.6.1. So you can always download a free trial of Simplify 3D, or you can use Prusa Slicer and just slice up the exact same file just as a test. And there's a piece of Marlin code you can actually enable to do a dry run of a print, where it doesn't heat up the nozzle or extrude anything, but it goes through the entire print. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice. Kawasaki 14, I'm not even going to try the rest of that. My new
getting closer every week.
Yeah. My new BTT SKR 1.4 non-turbo BL Touch 2000 or 2209 steppers BTT TFT touchscreen acts like it does not. That X minus O and Y minus O in front left bed, all over the bed, each homing that is performed. I'm kind of confused as to what that question is.
So it sounds like with the BL Touch setup here, the printer doesn't is not treating X0 Y0 as the front left portion of the bed. Um, I guess my question would be, where does it home to when you do homing? Because with the BL Touch and Z Safe homing enabled, it should go all the way to X, hit the end stop, all the way to Y, hit the end stop, which would be your 0, 0 in the front left corner, and then it will move usually to the center of the bed and do a Z, but afterwards it should show the coordinates as half your bed size of X and half your bed size of Y.
Yeah, yeah, that is correct. Moki is Australian for Mike. That's cool.
Yeah, we're just not going to read his official name then on the chat, or we might get demonetized.
We'll just say
That's
Mike.
Play on words.
Yeah,
Mike. Yes. Sorry, Mike.
Mike. Yeah, so that's Ben brings up a good point. Make sure that you don't have pause at height post-processing script active in Cura as well. I find sometimes when I'm doing a temperature tower, and that's where I use that most, is I'll forget to disable all that, and then it'll do that for my next print, and I just kind of shake my head and go, "What's going on?" And then I go back and look.
And once you start to learn a little bit of G code too, you can start up your print,
Yep.
see where it goes to, and then based off that, you can usually roughly estimate where in the G code it's failing. And if you read the text file, you might find something weird. So that's usually my go-to, because if the print doesn't print, well, you're only 3 or 4 lines into that file.
That's right. Canadian Maker Project. Hey, there's Ron. We haven't seen him in a while.
Ron,
Welcome back to the channel, Ron.
Long time.
Want to let you guys know that we do have Super Chat turned on, so if you want to get your question to the front of the line, we will certainly, by all means, take care of that. Hey, we got a Super Chat.
Did you fix the button?
I haven't fixed the button.
Super Chat.
There you go. Thinking from Adam Green. Thank you very much, Adam, for the $10. We do appreciate that. He says, thinking about getting a SK Go kit. You guys have any experience with this printer? If so, I would love your feedback. The SK Go kit, I have not had any experience with. I haven't reached out to them, and they haven't reached out to me. So I don't really know much about it. How about you, Brian?
I haven't heard about that until now, so I'm just checking out their website.
I'm doing the same thing.
It's seckit3dp.design. It sounds like they sell kits, and you can pay for pieces of your Core XY, or you can buy the full kit to build the full Core XY. So that's neat. I'm gonna look at pricing here. Well, they're saying $579 US, and that gets you what kind of build assembly? So it's not for beginners, obviously. In fact, that's actually the bare bones kit. The full kit sets you back.
This would be something for somebody who's got a lot of experience, I feel.
Wow, you know what's really interesting is that when you build their kit, it's only $100 US increase to change out all the rails from Chinese linear rails to Highwinds. That's actually not that bad of a deal if you're buying into that. SKR 1.3 by default, or you can self-source your board. 1.8 degrees. It's really modular. That's pretty darn cool. Now, with that being said, with the price point, I almost feel you can do a little bit better buying a kit printer and modifying it, because there are some good Core XYs or Core XY-like printers. For instance, like the Ender 5 Pro, I think is cheaper than that, and I think you could get more out of, the Ender 5 Plus. I think you could get a little bit more bang for your buck buying an Ender 5 Plus and doing some modifications. Or if you really want to go the DIY route, build something like a Hypercube Evolution.
Yeah, that would be the way to go as well. I just kind of went full kit, and added in the high winds and the black frame because I like black. I put in the big tree. I went with the 1.8 steppers, Triangle Labs, smooth one-sided magnetic PEI, and Canadian, and their price to me would be $879 for that full kit. That's US.
Yes, I'm seeing
So
the same.
little
And
over
without the
1,000.
shipping, yeah.
Yeah, a little over 1,000 before shipping, and shipping fees would be another 135 US to me. Plus, you've got duty and import fees. So, do I think it's worth it for that money? No, because I think you can you can source locally usually, and get it for a lot less money. I would bet that you could build the same thing for about $250 less than that.
I'd say so, and there's more open source designs in there. I mean, all the parts they're advertising on here, like the Triangle Lab BMG extruder, which is a fine extruder I've found. Energetic 3D magnetic PEI plates. My shipment came in this week after 90 days, so you'll be seeing some reviews on those shortly. Actually,
There you go.
but everything else is pretty much stock off the shelf parts.
Yeah, you can find them anywhere.
I mean that's not a bad thing. It's a steep price for a DIY kit. If you're going to go full DIY, I think you're better to buy something off AliExpress and experiment.
I would say so too. I think you're still going to get quality aluminum extrusion, which most of the aluminum extrusion right now comes from China anyway. So you're still going to get that. You're going to end up with parts that you can reuse. You'll get motors, you'll get extruders, you'll get hot ends, and then you can just kit things out for yourself as you want to do the upgrades. So, and I think you'd still be further ahead doing it that way than going the route that they're going.
Now I'll share it in the chat here, but if you are interested, SK Go, they've actually released most of its open source design actually on their GitHub. So you can build this. Like, you can just buy the parts yourself and build their design if you really want.
There you go. Stephen Johnson says, "Hi guys from Australia." Hello, Stephen Johnson from Australia. I've just ordered a Wanhao D9. Have you reviewed this printer and what are your thoughts on it? If you watch my original review on the D9, I got slammed pretty hard on that review because it didn't impress me from the time I opened the box to the time that I had it all together. Now, with that said, they have improved that printer dramatically since that time. So it is a much better printer now than it was when I did that review. So if you have bought yourself a D9, right on, it should work great for you. Just make sure that you have the most current firmware on it. Check Wanhao's website to make sure that you do have the most current firmware. There was another question in here about a 5 Plus from Adam Green. He was told that the Ender 5 Plus was not a true Core XY. It is not. It is not a Core XY at all.
No.
It is a Cartesian.
No, but it's a Cartesian, but the bed does move up and down. That's, I know we go back and forth on Core XYs. I don't know what you would call that style of printer. One where, your X and Y moves.
Your X and Y are still, the way that they're designed, the X and Y is still set up as a Cartesian. So by all rights, it is a Cartesian-based machine. It's just in a square box. Now, that's the same thing with the Ender 5. It's not a Core XY. Can these machines be converted over to true Core XY? Absolutely. It's going to take a little work and a little bit of printing, but yes, they can be. Is a true Core XY better than the Cartesian in that scenario? Absolutely it is. I think by all means you should, if you're going to go with the Plus, play with it as it is now, look at it. If it's not meeting your needs and you want to go to a true Core XY, it's not a big expense to make some minor changes. And most of it's going to be belts and the way that the belts are routed. So
Yeah, no, you got that right. Myself, I personally like I do like the Ender 5s. You know, I do have one just off camera here that's barely been modified actually, and it still prints solid for me. So yeah, all I'm trying to get at is these kits that these companies are selling. Um, when you start getting into that upper price range, you can actually buy a more premium printer,
Yeah.
usually pre-built, these companies, they like to make kits, but I think I've seen a couple of Core XY frames available on AliExpress for $300 to build your own, and then you start doing all the math. Sometimes it's just better to buy a kit printer, you know, or buy a ready to go printer. And Creality generally hasn't released a dud in that price range, you know, the CR-10S V excluded, but
Yeah.
you know,
We
that's the whole reason they gain popularity is because you can't build an Ender 3 for the price you can buy one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, we got CNC Evolution. Hi from Romania. Hello from Canada.
How is that?
Let's get to KKP3D's question. He says, guys, I've heard the word ironing in slicers. What is it and what will it do? Apparently, the next release of Prusa Slicer will have it. Ironing has been available. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
Okay. So ironing, the fancy term that it is, really refers to running the nozzle at the same layer height as what you've just printed over it again to further smoothen it out. And sometimes they'll drop down an itty bitty bit, but usually what it is, there's an extrusion multiplier, and I think Cura's by default is 10% of your regular extrusion rate.
Yeah.
And it goes in a different pattern than when it drew that top layer, and uses a very small amount of extrusion to try and fill in the ruts from your top layers. And if done right, you'll come out with this shiny top surface. That being said, if you have a lot of curved top surfaces, you're not going to notice nearly as much in the terms of smoothness as you would to a completely flat top level. And in fact, you would just be adding time. So with the nature of the models I do, since I don't have flat tops, generally I keep that on the bottom. Mine don't. I have no benefit from using ironing. How about yourself, Richard?
I've used ironing maybe once or twice. I don't really care for it because sometimes I find that because of what it does, it can actually mess up the top a little bit more in Cura anyway. I think if Prusa is developing it, they're working on a different sort of set of instructions. So it might be a much better form of ironing. But at the end of the day, all ironing really is just heat applied to the very top layer via the nozzle to smooth everything out on the very top layer to give you less of that hatched look when the material is going back and forth. So
yeah, next time you run an XYZ cube, give it a try, enable the feature. You'll notice the Z is going to be at the top, and it's going to be quite a bit smoother. But what you'll also notice is that last top layer is going to slow down to about 25% of its regular speed. And it may eat up a lot of time if you have large top surfaces, but for something small like that, it'll maybe add 5 minutes. I tried it with, I think, wood filament once, and it was really weird.
Yeah, I've never used it on wood filament. Ray Mildebrandt, hello, sir. Has anyone using Octoprint other than the Raspberry Pi? I had a Mac Mini sitting doing nothing, so the last few days I've been using it with the Mac Mini, and so far so good. I have not tried it with anything other than a Raspberry Pi. I do know that you can use it on Mac Minis. You can use it on PCs. Old PCs are great for it because typically old PCs have a lot more processing power than the Raspberry Pi does, especially the Raspberry Pi 3. I got a couple old PCs here I could set up and just put cameras on all of them and run them all into one PC and then have a printer control farm. However, I've never done that because I just don't feel confident enough in it personally. But yeah, I think it's if you can use it with a Mac Mini, all the power to you.
Yeah, I've done a few of them actually. item to take into account is I'm not familiar with the OS X platform, but when you run the Windows variant of Octoprint, you're at risk of your Octoprint shutting down as a result of forced Windows updates. So generally, whenever I run any Octoprint instances, I will set up a Linux machine purely for it, as Linux will not force a reboot. Mac being closer to the Linux realm, it's technically FreeBSD if we want to get into that. But my understanding is that Apple does not force reboot cycles in the same way as Windows. So if you have a Mac computer and you're confident that there will not be a system update pushed out that will force a reboot mid-print, it's a solid way to go. And you can set up multiple instances for multiple printers, but it takes a lot more effort than Octoprint does thanks to the Octopi OS.
Yeah, that's. I think you hit that nail right on the head. Kawasaki 14. He says, "I'm trying sensorless homing for the first time. Maybe that's part of my issue. Should I put my end stop switches on my printer with the new 32-bit board?" If you're using sensorless homing, if you haven't got it dialed in, then yes, I would as a precautionary backup. But other than that, if you've got them dialed in, I wouldn't. You know more about sensorless homing than I do.
Yeah, it relies on a bit of a feedback on the motor. I can't recall the exact formula of how it works there, but basically, in a nutshell, it monitors the feedback from your stepper output about how much resistance there is on the coils, and based off that, it determines if it determines a factor inside Marlin. And so you have to go set a threshold within Marlin, and it's kind of guess and check where you have to use the TMC debug feature to dump the values in real time so you can see what the resistance is. Even with dialing that in, I chose not to use sensorless homing for a few reasons. And the first one is it's not that accurate. And if you deal with anything such as power outage recovery, or you need to rehome your end stops at any point during a print, you're never going to return to the same location. A physical switch is going to give you a more accurate end stop. And for me, when I'm doing the printers that were capable of it, we're talking 96 plus hour prints. It's not a risk to, if you have a thermal runaway and you figure out your printer, it's a lot of work to try and realign your nozzle mid-print with sensorless homing versus your regular end stops.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I don't do any of these sensorless homing. First of all, because I haven't had a chance to really research it. I mean, with everything I've got going on around here, I just can't get to everything. And that's why I rely on Brian to have that part of it. So with that said...
someday go ahead.
With that said, I would think that if you haven't thoroughly researched the process and you're still kind of green to the firmware and making changes in firmware, my immediate instinct would be go back to square one, install the manufacturer's firmware on your printer, try things out, see if things are back to normal. Because he also says he's having problems with his 9-point homing and it's crashing and a bunch of other things. So I would definitely go and put that back into factory mode and just see what is happening. Again, if you're not familiar, and this is something that a lot of our viewers try, and it seems to be the biggest point of confusion for a lot of people, and that's how the firmware works. Now, Marlin is built on the Arduino platform. Arduino programming is built on the C language programming, so it's very plain English when it comes to setting up your different lines of code. What you're writing in there is basically plain English. It's no longer doing 90 different letters and numbers and strange characters like we used to do back in the day. Fortran, COBOL, those days.
What 5?
Yeah. Hey, we got another super chat from Adam Green.
Super chat.
He just wanted to hear you say super chat again.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. Hey, I'm cheap. What can I say?
There you go. but he's not easy.
No.
We've got a
Difficult.
collection of STLs we're going to be putting up for anybody that is interested. We're going to put them up on our website. They'll also be on shopthefirstlayer.com. Anytime that we put up an STL that we haven't spent, numerous hours of development on, they will be for free. They're yours, free to download. But if you're getting them from shopthefirstlayer.com and not from something like Thingiverse, you will have to sign up for an account there, and then you'll be able to download them. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. And this is one of the STLs that's going to be going up there pretty soon. It's a very simple tool that I created. It's to set a 2.5 millimeter offset for the BL Touch or even the 3D Touch if you're adding one of those to your printer. The lower edge is where your nozzle will sit, and the higher should be where your stowed pin sits. If it is too far down, you're going to know. This is just a real simple tool that I made, and this thing has saved my bacon more than I can shake a stick at. It's gotten me out of a few jams and bent probes.
Oh, don't get me on some bent probes. I got 12 backups now.
We have to get some probes. Yeah. The weird thing is I haven't been using the probe on my CR-10S for probably 6 months now.
Really now?
Oh yeah. I unplugged that thing a long time ago, and I've gone back just to straight level it out, do it yourself. And I've not had a problem. I've been printing stuff on there like crazy, and I've not had a problem.
Fantastic.
I've always said this, that all upgrades are not necessary. I know that we all get caught up on the glitz and glamour of upgrades, and Brian, you can back me up on this because I've done it. There's
what
a new
kind of
upgrade.
printers do I have anymore?
Yeah.
I'm really bad at that.
And then you find out later on that they're not the best upgrade. Now, I will always recommend that you do a Micro Swiss upgrade on any Creality product. I will always recommend that you go to a metal extruder on any Creality product or any type of extruder that has a plastic setup. I will always recommend that you go to metal. Bowden tube, depending on what you're printing. Do I always think that you need Capricorn tube? No. You can get away with just straight Bowden tube for 95% of what you're going to print. Some printers I wouldn't even mess with. Like I've got that dual-headed one upstairs, FlashForge, the Creator Max. And you know what? I print on that thing a lot. And I print only ABS on that thing. And I got to tell you, every time I print on it, it comes out beautifully. And I haven't done anything to it.
We're playing with Capricorn tubing with one of the printers at Spool there once, right? That CR-10S Pro, I want to say.
Yep.
And it did not like the Capricorn tubing. It actually liked the cheaper stuff way better. My machines, as I convert them to direct drive, I'm not using Capricorn tubing. I'm using a much more rigid tubing I got from AliExpress at one point, and I've had no problems. The problem I found with Capricorn, as much as I love it, is it's too good. And if you buy cheap filament, it's never going to work for you, simply put, because the filament swells too much and catches on that tubing. And is the flex within that tubing more problematic than catching? I would say probably not.
Speaking of filament, and I get this question a lot, what do I recommend for filament? Well, I use a lot of different filaments. And for the longest time, you guys knew that I was using Spool 3D filament because it was right there and available to me. It is no longer right there available to me. Not to say that I don't have a bunch of it still here, but I have been experimenting again with eSun, and I've talked about eSun in the past. Some things that I like, some things that I didn't like. And I recently put some eSun on the FlashForge upstairs. And I have got to tell you that I am very pleasantly pleased with the way that it prints. Another one I've had real good success with is Overture. Really good. Filaments.ca, they're eco-tough. Amazing stuff. all stuff that I would certainly buy again. I'm trying out some, what is the name of it? I can't remember off the top of my head, but some people say that eSun is good. Some people say that eSun is bad. Here's my personal experience. Sunlu. I don't like Sunlu. I will say that straight up front. If anybody from Sunlu is watching, I don't like your filament. I've never had success with Sunlu filament ever. Doesn't matter what.
I was using it exclusive for like 9 months, and it was great for me. And that's the problem. Is it's very subjective. It's why we don't like to do filament reviews. Is because we cannot guarantee that it's going to be the exact same as your setup.
Exactly, and everybody's setup is a little different. So when it comes to PLA, ABS, PETG, the ones that I gravitate to the most will be Arion. I really love their stuff. They do really good. Filaments.ca, their Eco Tough line, both in ABS and PLA. Great stuff. Their PETG is good. I also like Kodak. Kodak I'm absolutely loving. I think it's got great filament. However, the price is up there, and you only get 750 grams to a roll. So that being said, these are all filaments that I love. I use all the time. We are going to do an episode on how to anneal your filaments properly, because when you get into the plus and the toughs and what's the other one? The pros, you can anneal that and give that plastic more overall strength. Doesn't matter if you're using PLA or you're using ABS or PETG. You can anneal them in a heated chamber, usually an oven, and you can get more strength out of them for a longer lasting part. Now, does that make it brittle over time? I don't know. We're going to have to do a bunch of experiments on that, but it is something that I will be checking out.
We'll definitely play with the rigidity there, but annealing PLA is a great option to strengthen it up there. It won't change your temperature properties, but it will change your impact, and we'll discuss that a little more in detail when we drill into it, because it's a thrown around term. Just promise me you won't go throwing your prints right away in the oven.
Yeah.
Because everybody's oven's different, and we have melted rolls of PLA by thinking it was at 60 Celsius.
One of the things that I had read about annealing plastics in the PLA range anyway, is that if you are going to anneal your plastic, what you want to do is you want to bring your oven up to about 150 degrees temperature, let it sit there for about an hour so that it is fully encased. Put your part in after that hour and turn off the oven and keep the door closed. Let that temperature come back down to normal over time, and then take your part out. It should be in there probably, I would think, for about 45 minutes to an hour as that temperature is coming down, and you should end up with a stronger part. I wish I could remember where I read that, but because I've been looking into annealing plastics recently, so we're going to do an episode on that for you guys.
Absolutely.
3D printing and painting is saying that Arion's brittle for them, and that could be because of where you are in the world. Arion
entirely,
yeah, Arion, I have great success with it up here. We're very dry here. Usually, right now we're not. We're very humid right now because of all the rain we've had. But that hasn't affected my PLA very much. Probably because the room that all my printers are in now is completely closed. So there's no extra movement of air in there, and it's keeping all that ambient warmth in. Yeah, you go in there, you might as well take off your clothes at the door because it's pretty hot when you get in there, especially when you got 3 or 4 printers going. Yeah. So if you see me doing the printer room tour in just a t-shirt and shorts, you'll know why. I won't do it naked, I promise.
Oh, maybe promise. I don't know. Maybe it should be the more they donate, the more clothes we wear.
There you go. There you go. So we're actually coming up on 10 minutes to the top of the hour here. We're about 13
Yeah,
minutes
we haven't
out.
given a spiel about our Facebook group.
No.
And one person still managed to find us tonight. So
There you go.
that's an awesome thing. I'm sorry I forgot your name because I approved you so quickly. I'll go back and find out. Oh,
Now, I noticed that people have been inviting people to our group, and that's great. We fully support that, and we want more people in our group over on Facebook. But I do want our members to watch as well as we do. We don't always catch them. My wife caught this one this week. It was a very strange name. If you read it fast enough, it was a swear word. So, of course, that person did not get approved. I think they were deleted. We don't delete very many people from Facebook when they're asking to be members. I think we've done it less than a handful of times. But it's names that we look at first, and then, of course, we are going to go and check out your profile, just so you know. We have a look at your profile, and if we figure that you could be an asset to our group, we definitely invite you in. That's not to say that we do that with everybody. A lot of times we just approve you. But
yeah, we just, like right now, Adam Green, you're approved. Welcome
There
to
you
the
go.
club.
Approved.
Approved.
There you go. I think that our group is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I want to see some of your guys' prints right now. I know we're not all out of PLA. Come on.
That's something we haven't seen a lot of lately is prints. There's a lot been going on in the world, believe me. Let's do something positive. Let's have some prints show up on our Facebook group. If you want to submit prints to us, or pictures of your prints that you want us to show on the show, you can send them to questions@thefirstlayer.com. Brian, you don't have access to that one yet, do you?
No,
I will have
I'm
to get you
I'm
access.
just the code monkey.
I will have to get you access. I promise.
You watch it. I'll create some real sexy shirts.
Hey, keep creating shirts. We'll put them up on the store. We need more than 3 items that we have.
That's true.
We have 3 items. And they're all a variant of the same item.
That's very true. Well, we had a lot of merch on the other store, and Teespring took far too much. I think we still actually have it mapped here on YouTube, but we're not. We'd rather pass the savings on to you guys and get you a better quality product. Let's put it that way.
All our prices are in Canadian prices, so you US guys are going to like it. Yes, we do use Canada Post, so Canada Post shipping rates are not always the greatest. We do apologize for that, but there's nothing we can do. They set the price, we don't. But if you order something, we'll get it out to you in a very, very timely manner. So,
shipping, let us know. We'll get you a quote, but it's not cheap even with corporate discounts right now. I've been paying $70-$80 to send a 2-pound box to the US. So bear that in mind. We're not a company. We are just individuals doing this.
Kawasaki's asking where he can get one of these. I will be putting it up on shopthefirstlayer.com. That's where you'll be able to get this. It'll be free to you. So it will go up in the next couple of days because I do have this file. It was created in Fusion 360. So if you want the source files, Brian and I haven't discussed it yet, but we will. Whether we're going to offer the source files to you guys or not. If it's something that you guys would like, if you're Fusion 360 aficionados and you'd like to make some changes to them, we'll let you know if that's going to be something that we do. So something to keep an eye out for. Yeah, it'll be on a case-by-case basis, yeah.
But just send us an email, and while you're at it, you can also send your questions to... there we go. I'm whacking everything. That's your card queue, Richard. That's your card queue.
I don't have the cards.
You don't have any of the cards tonight? Okay. All right. Questions at thefirstlayer.com. Send your emails there, and we will answer your questions every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 p.m. Mountain time here, but nobody lives in Mountain time except for us. So we do that. For the few people who haven't made it over, we have a Facebook group at facebook.com/group/thefirstlayer. And if you don't feel like supporting any of those corrupt, now, did I say corrupt?
You did.
Companies. We appreciate any subscriptions to the channel here, likes, thumbs up, ringing the notification bell. We don't spawn boatloads of videos, but we get you a new video usually every week, and then a live stream every Saturday, so you can get alerted when it goes live, even if YouTube tells us late that we went live.
Yeah.
It's our fail safe. So yeah, throw us a thumbs up. If you're not liking today's content, throw us a thumbs down. That way we actually know, because we don't, and we will ramble about the worst topics until someone tells us to stop.
That's right. We got 42 concurrent viewers and only 13 likes. Hey, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification, so you do, as Brian said, you get notified every time that we're here. And that'll help you. It helps us.
It does. YouTube metrics are really funny like that. Don't get me wrong,
The other thing is, share this with a friend or family member, somebody who might find this useful. Share our channel with them. And I noticed that because we've been doing this series on rockets lately, and I know I keep circling back to that, we've had a lot of people watching our show recently that wouldn't normally watch our show. Because we're now starting to dive into a few more topics, but they're still 3D printer centric. So, and we're going to keep doing that. You guys know that we've got the RC car, the Formula One car here from, what is his name? I can't remember. Anyway, we're going to probably do that. Or we're going to do a boat. I was thinking about doing a boat. What do you say, Brian?
We're half flooded right now. Sure, let's build a boat.
We might have to build a boat just to get out.
We have 72 hours, but it's going to take 96 hours on the printer. So I guess we got a couple of dings.
I'll do my half here. You do your half there. And we'll see if they come together. Yeah, cue Rocket Man.
Well, if I was going to have Rocket Man play or have any David Bowie playing with our rockets, I would have the nose cone pop up and have a little Hot Wheels car in there.
Ben Brady came to the rescue. Daniel Noré is the gentleman that does the Formula One or the F1 OpenRC project. Download his files. Make yourself an OpenRC car. I mean, have fun with it.
I remember probably growing up that, the big Christmas highlight was getting a Radio Shack monster truck. And I remember when I started working there that some of those were like $800-900, right? Nowadays you can buy a printer and print it for less than that. Yeah. How crazy is that?
That's insane. I mean, I printed tires for my OpenRC. And if I had to go and buy those tires, the same size tires, they would have cost me 5 times as much of the PLA or the flexible material TPU that I used. So, will 3D printing solve all your problems? No. Will it solve a good majority of them in whatever hobby you're doing? Could be. And we're going to test that out. We're going to test it out when we blow up rockets on the launch pad. I mean, when we fly rockets off the launch pad.
Oh man, just remember, that 3D printing used to be called rapid prototyping, and it still bears that name today for that reason. It is a rapid form of prototyping. It's not meant to produce end products. But now, as we're seeing with the new plastics, you technically can, and the fact is, that material probably outlasts the product you're attaching it to, right? You're not going to, the people that attach it to a Jeep, well, what's the life cycle of a Jeep? When was the last time you saw a 25-year-old Jeep on the road? Not very often, right? So, yeah. Actually, Parker Cooper just brought up an interesting question. Can I use PLA on a meat slicer? That I think we're going to need a bit more information on what part you intend on using on a meat slicer.
Yeah.
Because step one, is it going to challenge your safety? Is it going to modify your safety factor? It could or it could not. I would not rely on it as a safety component, and I certainly would not encourage it to bypass the safety component.
Yeah.
And that's the two things I could see doing with a meat slicer. But
I could see making the compression rings that go on to hold the blade in place, or a handle. I could see doing that. That would be fine. I don't know about the compression ring because it would wear out because of the friction, because those blades are spinning super fast at a very high RPM. So chances are you're going to end up melting it and then probably losing a finger, which we don't want you to do. But
we're going to talk a bit about manufacturing in the future. But for instance, lately I've been using Fusion 360 to develop actual engineered products. And if you are going to print something, let's say for a meat grinder, let's say it's a gear or something, you would use your 3D printing to size it up, and assuming your printer is dialed in, to make sure that the part fits. And then I would send those schematics out to a machine shop and get it professionally machined. And it's actually probably going to be cheaper than you'd think, just to get that custom component. But you'll know it fits. You know your designs are there. There are a lot of things out there, for instance, the KitchenAid mixers that use, I think, some form of PET gears. But if you go up to the professional series, they use metal gears, and it does show a difference with the metal gears. 3D printing is not designed to replace traditional manufacturing. It's supposed to assist with it.
The lower end ones use nylon gears, I believe.
Oh, that's right. They are nylon based.
They're nylon, yeah.
I've seen people wear through them, and even things like your washing machine, there are plastic rings in there that are designed to snap after 5 years, right? So anytime your safety is involved, I just say give it an extra thought. But if you're getting to the point of manufacturing it, you're going to be pretty in touch with knowing your materials.
We've got Parker Cooper. I'm just going to answer, or not Parker Cooper. Dominic Versetto says carabiners for mountain climbing. No, unless
you're going to be on 1,000 Ways to Die.
Yeah,
that's one way.
3D print your carabiners and your pitons, and you may not get too far up the mountain. With that said, go ahead,
Joel, the 3D printing nerd. I think he did a tension test with something that looked like a carabiner, and your weight thresholds. You wouldn't want to hang a dog on half your materials, let alone yourself.
Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. All you guys, you're great. We had a good 48 people joining us concurrently this evening. Thank you for all the super chats that you guys put forward for us to help us out, because this is what I do full time now. This is my job. Writing and producing and getting content ready for you guys each and every week. And then Brian is the other side of it. He helps me with some of the technical stuff that I don't get into. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We're going to be back on Wednesday with a new review of a brand new printer that is on a Kickstarter. And I'll give you my honest opinion of it, as I always do, and I'll tell you if it's worth your hard-earned money or not, or whether you should invest in it. Other than that, Brian, what about you?
I'm going to be getting the big boy going. I have a couple of screws to mount into this new engineered bed, which is gorgeous, but you have to know what you're doing to get something crazy like that. Trying to figure out what I want to put on the big boy there, because I'm pretty sure the size of rocket I could print on that machine, we don't have enough engines to power that.
Remember, we're only using 18 millimeter engines.
Yeah. So unless I'm trying to create a Falcon Heavy to scale, and I require 27 engines,
that might be a lot.
Yeah, it might cause more fires than it would solve.
Parker Cooper's asking, where's Super Chat? It's that little dollar sign right at the very bottom of the chat window. Real quickly,
the chat, it doesn't show. I learned that one the hard way. So if you have the chat popped out, it will not show that, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I've found that too. One real quick question, Sharky 75753 TN. What causes clear resin to come out yellow? Clear resin is, depending on the resin that you're using, if it's old, it might come out yellow. And it could be because you're over-curing it as well. If you over-cure clear resins, they will get a yellow tint to them. Same thing with white. If you use whites and you over cure it, it will get yellow. With that said, that is it. Mash that like button, and we are going to see you guys again on Wednesday with a brand new review, and then back here on Saturday night for another Ask for Help. Send your questions to Questions at the First Layer. For now, I'm out of here. Brian's out of here. And remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. Till next time.
See you guys.